Hey y'all, so today we are going to talk about the Mothman. So, as a native West Virginian, the Mothman is a story that hits close to home. It's something I talk about every year with my kids in class. We talk about it during the week of Halloween when we do spooky West Virginia stuff. And so, the Mothman is just a story that everyone in West Virginia knows. So, who is the Mothman? In my view, the Mothman is a big monster from a little Appalachian town who has been part of American folklore since the 1960s. So let's dive in and talk about the Mothman. So let's talk about the legend and the eyewitness accounts of who claims to have seen this Mothman. What did they see? What happened? So I'm going to tell you a couple stories. So the first one happened on November 12th, 1966, when 5 grave diggers were in Clendenin, West Virginia, and they claimed to have seen a winged man flying above their heads. So the next sighting is going to be on November 15th, 1966 in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, which is kind of where you're going to originate the home of the Mothman. So you're going to have 2 young couples who were driving down the back road of Route 62 in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Mallett. So the couples are going to report that they saw a large black creature who had glowing red eyes standing by the road near the old TNT plant, which was a former World War II munitions bunker. They're going to claim that he was standing there, his eyes were glowing, and they just could not take their eyes off of him. So panic is going to set in, and Roger is going to speed away and speed towards town. But then they said the creature followed them. They claim that the creature kept up with them, even though they were driving upwards of speeds of 100 miles an hour. Once they got to the edge of town, they say that the creature left, he flew away. In later reports, Linda Scarberry is going to say that it was a slender, muscular man, about 7 foot tall, with these white wings and glowing red eyes. So over the following 3 days, there are going to be at least 8 more people who claim to see this creature or a creature that looks similar to what the 2 couples reported to authorities. The local paper is going to run with this story. This new creepy creature who's being seen in their town? Absolutely. Why would you not run with this story? And they would eventually name him the Mothman. Within a day or two, almost the whole town descended on the location where the creature was spotted, and they had their guns, they had weapons ready to kill the monster. The monster was never found, but they did spark a new legend. Over the next 100 years, multiple people would claim that they've seen this Mothman creature, and all the reports were the same. It was a large, slender, muscular man about 6 to 7 foot tall, wings with no feathers. It had a face that you couldn't distinguish the face, but you could see the 2 big, huge, glowing red eyes. So some people think that the Mothman could have been created or formed from the old government facility that was there in Point Pleasant. The facility made the munitions and the explosives that went into atomic bombs, and it would actually close the day after the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. So some people are like, okay, so all the things that were there, all the chemicals ended up creating this maybe this animal that formed into this monster. So that was a legend of how the Mothman may have appeared, and we're going to talk about a couple more in a minute. So I've been to these old bunkers that are there in Point Pleasant, and they are spooky. They're creepy. They're big. There's no lights in them. People have graffitied all over. So if I was a monster, I think that would be the perfect place to try and hide out and stay away from people. So you can't talk about the Mothman and the legend of the Mothman without talking about the Silver Bridge. So the Silver Bridge was built in 1928 to connect Point Pleasant, West Virginia to Gallipolis, Ohio. In the early days of December of 1967, some people claimed that they saw the Mothman on top of the Silver Bridge. Of course, there are no pictures of this, but some people are like, oh, I saw the Mothman today. He was sitting on top of the Silver Bridge. And there were multiple people who claimed to have seen this. December 15th, 1967 would be the day that the Mothman legend would change for all of history. So the Silver Bridge would end up collapsing that day. 64 people would go into the water and 46 of them would end up dying. So some people claim that the Mothman caused the bridge to collapse. Other people claim that the Mothman knew there was a problem with the bridge and was trying to warn people that the bridge was gonna collapse. So some people thought he caused the collapse, and some people thought he was trying to warn everybody, hey, the bridge is gonna collapse, you need to be careful. So after years of investigation on the Silver Bridge, it actually came out that a single I-beam about 55 foot long had fractured, causing the pin that held it in place to become loose, and that would cause the tragic chain of events that would follow. It really would change the legend of the Mothman over the next pretty much for history, that some people didn't know, was the Mothman a harbor of death, or was the Mothman really trying to warn people of what was going to happen? So what are the theories and speculations about the Mothman? So is he an elaborate hoax? Is it mistaken for some other animal creature? Or is he really something strange and mystical? So let's talk about some of the theories. Theory number one is that the Mothman is a mutated sandhill crane. So wildlife biologist Robert R. Smith at WVU, West Virginia University, came up with this theory of the Mothman being a sandhill crane, or maybe a mutated sandhill crane. So he says that sandhill cranes stand about as tall as the average man and have like red skin around their eyes, so that maybe could give you like this glowing red eye effect. Are sandhill cranes in West Virginia? Yes, sandhill cranes have been spotted in West Virginia over the years. They are not native here, but they have been spotted here. And so some people think that it could be a mutated sandhill crane from all the munitions stuff that was around Point Pleasant. Like the crane ate it, and now it's mutated, and now it's like this monster type crane. The next theory is that it's just a theory, like it's just mass hysteria, which if you watched my Salem Witch Trials video, which if you haven't, you should, I talk about mass hysteria in my Salem Witch Trials video. So I'm going to read you the definition of mass hysteria. Mass hysteria is a form of mass contagion in which an irrational belief or behavior grips a group or community. Some people believe that this would not be difficult to do in a small town like Point Pleasant. You don't have a lot of people. One person starts a story, and then the story grows and grows and grows and grows, and then everybody in the community is believing that this Mothman does exist. If you were in the area at the time, you either saw it, or you know somebody who saw it, or you had a family member who saw it, or you knew somebody's cousin who saw it. So mass hysteria is another theory on this Mothman story. So the third theory is that the Mothman is a cryptid or an alien. Me, I would go more with the cryptid part of the Mothman. I've got little Mothman stickers, and one of them has like the cryptid. It's got like Bigfoot. It's got the Flatwoods Monster, if you've never heard of the Flatwoods Monster, another West Virginia monster. So I would go more with the Mothman possibly being a cryptid. So what is a cryptid? A cryptid is a creature whose existence is unsubstantiated, like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, maybe a chupacabra. It is something that is found through folklore throughout the United States and the world. There are cryptids all over the world. And I'm going to put up a map. I'll put it probably right here, of different cryptids all over the world. So you can see like the Mothman would not be the only cryptid in the world. The alien theory is something that I just never got behind. It came from a 1975 book called The Mothman Prophecies, where the writer of the book claims that Point Pleasant had experienced these weird UFO sightings, and that these men in black had come and had talked to the people in the community and were threatening people, and other phenomenon that had happened. And so the alien theory was in this book, but it's not something that the people in West Virginia have ever taken seriously. And the fourth theory, which probably is my favorite theory, which I would say it's the fourth theory combined with being a cryptid, is the curse of Chief Cornstalk. So it is said in 1777, Shawnee Chief Cornstalk would put a curse on the area after his son was killed by settlers. So soon after his son was killed, Chief Cornstalk would be shot, and it is said that on his deathbed, he cursed the area. Some say the curse was a myth and it was added to a school play in like the 70s to like amp up the play. But as a West Virginian, I don't care if it's a myth or not. This is the theory that I like to believe. And when I talk to my kids and we talk about the theories of the Mothman in class, this is the theory that they choose to believe, because we do talk about Chief Cornstalk and everything that happened around his death and the death of his son. And so I believe believe, I'm going to say believe very loosely, in the curse of Chief Cornstalk creating the Mothman. When it comes to pop culture and the Mothman, as I've already said once, there was a book in 1975 called The Mothman Prophecies. It would later be turned into a film in 2002 starring Robert Greer. And in the book, it really talks more about like UFOs and Men in Black, but he does try to make ties between them and the Mothman. I'm not a fan of the book or the movie, really. I don't think it really does a service to the original story and the legend and the myth of the Mothman from a West Virginian's perspective. And then in 2002, the Mothman Festival started. So the Mothman Festival brings about 15,000 people into the town of Point Pleasant every year, bringing approximately $2 million in revenue. The festival is held the third weekend of September, and there are guest speakers, there are vendors, there are games for children. They will take people on tours out to the old bunkers and let you tour around where the home of the Mothman is. In 2003, a Mothman statue was put in downtown Point Pleasant. I've been to the statue numerous times. There's a funny story behind the statue, that the statue was put into place and there was going to be like a small news release like, hey, look at this statue in our town. And like national news people showed up and the mayor was not prepared, and somebody came and was like, hey, you need to put a suit on because the national news is here. So the Mothman statue is something in West Virginia that a lot of people have at least been to once in their lifetime. And then in 2005, 2006, the Mothman Museum opened. Jeff Wemsley, I might be saying his name wrong, would open the museum, and it's going to have like news articles about what people have seen with the Mothman, what they've experienced. So it's a really cute little place to go visit, and the Mothman Museum is literally right there in town by the statue. So the Mothman is one of the most celebrated cryptid, mysterious figures in United States history. The Mothman has a timeless story that has survived for decades. Everyone has their own theory and their own beliefs on what is the Mothman. But no matter what you believe, the Mothman has imprinted itself into West Virginia history. As a native West Virginian, I love the story of the Mothman. True or not, it really brings West Virginians together, and it celebrates the uniqueness of our state. If you enjoyed today's video and you want to see more videos like this one, please like, subscribe, and comment below with what do you think about the Mothman? Do you think he's real? Do you think he's fake? Do you think he's a harbor of death? Or do you think he's just like your friendly neighborhood cryptid who's just trying to warn people and maybe make new friends? Let me know below.